Suppose your teacher asks you to think about a problem. What do you do when she tells you that? How do you start thinking? Because when I teach, I often find students staring at me. When I ask them what they are doing, many of them say, I'm thinking. But how do I know that they are thinking? Because I'm not sure. Sometimes they look like they're asleep or they are just daydreaming or not listening to me. How can I know that they are really thinking? So there are two aspects to this question. I hope you think about this carefully. One, what do you mean when you say I am thinking? So suppose you say I am thinking, what do you actually mean? What are you actually doing? That's one question. Secondly, when you tell me you're thinking, how do I know you're really thinking and not doing something else? So let me give you an example to make you understand this. Okay? Suppose you tell me I'm eating. Then I ask you, what are you doing when you eat? So let's assume I don't know what eating is. Suppose I come and ask you, what are you doing? You say, I'm eating. So I say, oh, I don't know what eating is. Can you tell me what you do when you eat? Then you will say, well, I know what it is to eat. Take some food, put a piece of it in your mouth, bite and chew it and swallow it. That is called eating. So if I asked you, what is it running? What is it to run? What is it to jump? What is jumping, talking to someone, and so on? You can immediately describe what you're doing. So similarly, when I ask you what you are doing when you are thinking, what can you tell me? What do you do when you think? So when you eat, you can feel yourself eating. So when you eat ice cream, your mouth feels cold. When you eat chilies, your mouth is burning. So you could ask this question, okay, when I'm doing something, even if you're jumping, maybe your legs feel tired, your body has some pain. So similarly, if thinking is like that, you can ask yourself this question, right? So when I think, does anything happen to my body? If you think about a mathematics problem, do you feel something in your body? If you think about what to eat for lunch, is it your stomach which is feeling something about that thinking? I want you to pay attention, become aware of what you do when you think. So, for example, do an exercise. Start thinking for 5 minutes. So, suppose you say to yourself, I'm going to now think for the next 5 minutes. Now, first thing you'll say is, oh, what should I think about? So, it looks like you need a subject for thinking. You need some matter for thinking. So, let us say, to make it simple for you, start thinking whether the earth is flat or round. Okay? The earth looks flat, but maybe you read in a book or maybe you have seen a photograph or your teacher has told you that the earth is spherical. How will you think about this problem? Because the earth is looking flat, but the teacher is saying it is spherical. And you want to think about this. Now, don't start by saying you know the answer. Assume that you don't agree with what your teacher has said and then start thinking. The point is not the answer. The point is how you reach an answer. Look at what happens. So suppose you start saying, I'm going to think now the earth is flat or round, and you start thinking. Now pay attention to your body while you are thinking. Just like when you're eating an ice cream and you decide to pay attention, you pay attention to that tongue touching the ice cream melting, and it is slowly going down your throat. And you can follow that. You can pay attention to it. Similarly, when you're thinking, pay attention to it and see, ask yourself this question, is there a place in your body where you do your thinking? Everybody tells you, many of these adults and teachers and scientists will tell you, thinking is happening in your mind or brain. Can you feel your brain thinking? Because after all, when people say food goes into your stomach, I can feel my stomach after I eat a lot of food because the stomach is heavy. But when they say thinking is done by the brain, can you feel something in the mind or brain? Can you feel your brain thinking? Is it possible that you're thinking in your heart? Or maybe in your stomach? Because after all, when you have an exam where you're supposed to do all your thinking, it's your stomach which feels funny. So when you run, for example, your body starts to sweat. When you think, does your body sweat? Do you feel tired? Some students tell me their head aches. Does it happen to you? Does it really ache because you're thinking? So which part of your body becomes active when you're thinking? Write it down. Don't worry if it's right or wrong, or if your friend writes a different answer. You are learning to focus on yourself and what happens to you when you think. So let's go back to the example of eating. Suppose there is some fruit in front of you and your teacher says, eat the fruit. You then go about eating it. First, you pick it up in your hand, take it into your mouth, you bite it and swallow it, etc. So similarly, you ask yourself, when you're asked to think about something, what do you do first? Do you open your mouth? You might say, why should I open my mouth to think? I don't know. Some people, when they're thinking, they sit with their mouth open. Their eyes are looking up. They are looking somewhere else. Do you do that? What is the first thing you do? Then what is the second step? Can you list the steps one by one like you did for eating the fruit? So suppose I said, what are the steps for eating the fruit? Open my mouth, pick up the fruit, bite into it, chew it, swallow it. Some set of steps like that. Suppose I tell you, think about whether the earth is flat or round. What is your first step, second step, third step? How do you think? What are the steps of thinking? So remember, what we are trying to do here is trying to pay attention to our own capacity to think, what we do when we think. We are trying to understand how we think. So maybe I can give you some questions here that you can help. Maybe write down the answers for these questions and think about them, discuss with your friends. For example, when you think, do you close your eyes? Some students tell me that they think better when their eyes are closed. Maybe because they don't want to get distracted. So actually, children in these workshops often point to a very important point about thinking. They often tell me that if they want to think about something, they want to focus on it. And therefore, they don't want to get distracted by anything else around them. So ask yourself, when you think, do you close your eyes? Can you think with your ears closed? Because some people will say, when I'm thinking, I don't want other people talking around me or listening to music or something. Some people actually think a lot when they listen to music. But they're not really listening. The music is in the background and they're trying to do something. Ask yourself what happens to you. What do you do? That's what I'm interested in. When you think, do you close your eyes? Can you think with your ears closed? When you think, can you hear other sounds around you? When you're deep in thinking and your mother is calling out, come and eat something, sometimes you don't hear her. And look at this very funny thing, right? Because when somebody speaks, in biology class, they told us that sound waves enter your ear and you hear those words. Now, when you're deep in thought, when somebody is calling out to you or saying something next to you, the same sound waves are entering your ear, but your brain does not register it. I don't know if it's a brain. I'm just using that. I'm saying that the brain is not registering. But the point is, you do not register it. You don't know. You don't hear it, even though the sound waves are falling on your eardrums. What is it? What is this thinking? What is happening inside you when you think? Do you hear anything at all when you're thinking? Does your head feel warm when you think? Some people might say yes, some people may say no. That's not important. What is happening to you? How do you understand your thinking? Do you need something to help you think? I'm sure many of you might say, oh, ice cream definitely does. Maybe gulab jamun also helps me thinking. Some people drink tea and coffee. Maybe you don't need anything at all. And most importantly, this question I want you to think about very carefully. Do you need a language to think?
The lesson you just heard was conducted by Professor Sundar Sarukkai. It is drawn from the book Philosophy for Children, Thinking, Reading and Writing by Sundar Sarukkai, published by Ektara Trust. Link to buy the book is in the video description below. This series is a production of Barefoot Philosophers, an initiative to bring philosophy to the public and children. For more information, visit our website at www.barefootphilosophers.com.